Hello, everyone. The story I'm going to share today is the integrity and benevolence of Marquis Wen of Wei. During the warrior state period, the first ruler of State of Wei was Marquis Wen of Wei. Because he treated everyone with honesty and integrity, he was respected by both officials and ordinary citizens alike, and the State of Wei quickly grew powerful. In 403 BC, the state of Han invited the state of Wei to send troops to assist in attacking the state of Zhao. Marquis Wen declined, saying, "Zhao and I are brother states, and we have non-aggression pact. I dare not comply." The envoy from Han left in a fit of anger. Upon learning this, the state of Zhao, feeling a sense of brotherhood with the state of Wei, also requested the troops from Wei to attack the state of Han. However, Marquis Wen also refused Zhao's request for the same reasons. The envoy from Zhao also left in anger. However, both countries later recalled Marquis Wen's peaceful attitude toward their own countries and remembered his friendliness and tolerance. They were deeply impressed and returned to pay homage to the state of Wei. Wei thus became the leading state among the three states, and no other state dared to contend with it. Once Marquis Wen made an agreement with the person in charge of forests. They would go hunting and conduct military training in the countryside the following afternoon. The next day, after the morning court session, a banquet was held. Marquis Wen planned to go hunting and conduct military training as soon as the banquet ended. However, as the banquet was nearing its end, a torrential downpour suddenly began. It was almost noon, and the rain showed no sign of stopping. In fact, it was getting heavier. Marquis Wen rose and said to the assembled officials, "Excuse me, I must take my leave. Please prepare the carriages and horses quickly. I need to go to the outskirts to hunt and conduct military training. There are people waiting for me there." When the officials saw the king preparing to go out in the rain, they all came forward to dissuade him. One said, "With such heavy rain throughout the land, how can you go out?" Another said, "Even if you go, you won't be able to hunt or train troops." King Wen looked at the sky and said, "Hunting and troop trainings are indeed impossible, but I need to inform the person in charge in the forest." Among the officials, one volunteered, saying, "Very well, I will go and tell him immediately." Marquis Wen waved his hand and said, "Wait, I must go myself." The volunteer blinked as if he hadn't understood. Marquis Wen continued, "Yesterday I made the agreement with him personally, and now that I've broken my promise, I must apologize to him myself." With that, he strode out the door and, breathing heavy rain, went to the dwelling of the man who managed the forest. Marquis Wen was humble and courteous to everyone, regardless of their social status. Here's the story. A man named Duan Ganmu in the state of Jin came from the poor family. He had low social standing in his youth, making it difficult for him to realize his ambitions. Several virtuous men who lived with him in the state of Wei were highly valued and pointed to high positions by Marquis Wen. But Duan Ganmu remained steadfast in his own aspirations and did not want to become an official. When Marquis Wen wanted to summon him, he secretly slipped away. One day, when Marquis Wen was traveling, he passed by the land where Duan Ganmu lived. He placed his hands on a crossbar at the front of his chariot to show his respect to Duan Ganmu. The Marquis charioteer was puzzled by this action and asked, Why are you bowing in respect by placing your hands on the crossbar, my lord? Bowing while holding onto the chariot's crossbeam is a nation custom intended to express respect for someone. Marquis Wen said, Duan Ganmu is a virtuous man. He does not compromise his integrity in the face of power and possesses the qualities of a gentleman. Although he lives in seclusion in a poor neighborhood, his reputation has spread far and wide. How could I not show him respect when I pass by his residence? He gained honor through virtue, while I gained honor through conquering land. He possesses benevolence and righteousness, while I possess wealth. Land is inferior to virtue, and wealth is inferior to benevolence and righteousness. This is precisely the kind of person I should learn from and respect. The charioteer said, Since that's the case, why don't you invite him to become your prime minister? Marquis Wen said, You are absolutely right. Therefore, Marquis Wen invited Duan Ganmu to become his prime minister, but Duan Ganmu politely declined. Marquis Wen didn't press the matter and frequently visited him at his home. However, Marquis Wen showed great respect for Duan Ganmu, always standing respectfully beside him during their conversations. Duan Ganmu was deeply moved, and later the two became close friends. The State of Wei during the Warring State period was very powerful, partly because its rulers were skilled at governing the country, but more importantly, it was the admirable character of Marquis Wen that earned him respect and widespread support. His success stemmed from his virtue of trustworthiness and integrity. Thank you very much for listening to the story. More touching stories will be ready for you if you just subscribe it. Thank you again.